In 1933, Carter G. Woodson said, "The neglect of Afro-American history and distortion of the facts concerning Negroes in most history books deprived the black child and his whole race of a heritage and relegated him to nothingness and nobodiness." So we were given a month to learn about our history. The only problem is the history they taught us was not our true history. The oppressors gave us a history. But the times are changing. We woke up to the dangers of the black history they taught us. We now know that it was really the miseducation of the Hebrews. We were taught what to believe, and Black History Month is the one month during the year when it is acceptable to celebrate blackness. If you talk about it at any other time, it's divisive. In fact, when Mitch McConnell responded to the teaching about critical race theory, he wrote a letter to the Secretary of Education to express his disdain. He said, "Families did not ask for this divisive nonsense, and Americans never decided that our children should be taught that our country is inherently evil." Whose children are we talking about here? But 1 month out of the year, America is allowed to learn about acceptable Negroes. Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Madam C.J. Walker, and a handful of others made the approved list. Our history is not seen as a part of world history, or America's history for that matter. When you look at it in the context of America's history, you will see that most of what we know about our history stems from a belief system that centers around white supremacy. Europeans actually used history as a weapon against us. We cannot overlook the fact that religion made it easier for us to accept the lies. The indoctrination process was handed down in the schoolhouse and the church house. Who are we, and why are we here? We asked. We were told that we were the cursed children of Ham. Our black skin was the sign of that curse, and our punishment would be perpetual slavery. But I want to read some excerpts from a book called The Laws of Race as Connected with Slavery, written by Sidney George Fisher in 1860. In this book, you will see that the American political and religious leaders knew that they were being deceitful. They used lies and propaganda to not only control black bodies, but also their minds. Please listen as I read so that you can understand the mind of an oppressor. It says, "It is not surprising that what is called the slavery question, but which ought to be called the Negro question, absorbs so largely the attention of our people. For in it are involved not merely their temporal interests, but all those questions of religion and morals, which in every age have most deeply stirred the thoughts and touched the feelings of men. Slavery is apparently a violent contradiction of our position and pretensions as a free and Christian people. We proclaim liberty in our Constitution and our laws as the foundation principle of our government, yet we deny to 4 millions of men. Nevertheless, our schools, our churches, the Bible, and The sacredness of home, its ties, and its joys are for ourselves and not for the Negro. We darken his mind with ignorance. We make him an instrument of gain, a beast of burden, and deliver him up without protection to the callousness of cupidity, the recklessness of passion, the brutality of lust. We do this with forethought and design. We do it by law. We who are not Austrians, Russians, or Turks, but Saxon men, transplanted Englishmen, who have brought with us Magna Carta and the common law, who are Republicans and Democrats, and who assert with sincerity and truth too our love of freedom and our reverence for human rights. Surely this is a strange anomaly. The world has a right to ask us. We ought to ask ourselves, why do we this thing? The answer is because we cannot do otherwise. We have brought the Negro to our shores and therefore slavery with him. He cannot participate in our liberty, our Constitution, our churches, and our schools. We cannot, if we would, make him a partner in our civilization. Slavery is the necessary result of his nature and of our nature. It goes on to say the difference and natural inequality of the two races, white and black, therefore govern what is called the slavery question and all the constitutional and sectional questions dependent on it. The Negro is the inferior, born for subordination and servitude, which has been his lot in all ages when brought within the sphere of the white race. The Saxon, the highest type of the white race, will not live with the Negro on terms of equality, on any other terms than those of marked and recognized inequality. This is the relation between them wherever they do live together. What position of inequality the Negro shall hold is for the Saxon to determine, and his judgment must be guided by his interests, his safety, his pride, and also by his sense of justice and benevolence. The Saxon, to whose control the Negro has been committed, has determined that slavery is the plan of government which suits him better than any other. It furnishes a system of police, watchfulness, and restraint which secures obedience, industry, order, and temperance on the part of the Negro, by which the safety and prosperity of the white race are maintained and promoted. It secures also the physical well-being of the Negro by giving to his master an interest in that well-being. The labor of the slave is the source of wealth. Labor comes of health and strength of sufficient food, raiment, shelter, and regular but not excessive work. The Saxons residing in the South with the Negro has chosen this system for his government. He claims the right to choose it or any other, and he claims this right by prerogative of race, by the decree of nature which made him superior to the Negro in force of mind and character, and therefore his ruler. He will not relinquish this claim. He cannot, if he would. His right to it runs in his veins, beats in his breast, and is founded on immemorial usage. From the earliest periods of recorded history, he will resist whilst he can any power that shall attempt to interfere with that right, or dictate to him how he shall use it. On the other hand, this same Saxon or Teutonic man is a lover of liberty. He is the only race that does love it, and has been able to acquire and keep it. He loves instinctively personal liberty, power over himself, freedom from the will of another. He loves also political liberty, that is to say, a share of political power, so that he may consent to any control to which he does submit and form himself a part of the government he obeys. To such a man, slavery in the abstract is revolting, but his love of liberty is, in part, love of power. He sympathizes, therefore, with the oppressed, provided he be not the oppressor, and would gladly break all chains of bondage except those which he imposes. These characteristics of the Saxon, his practical ability and faculty for abstract thought, his passion for conquest and power, and his love of liberty, truth, and justice, whilst they make him a colonizer and a ruler, also render his rule beneficent. Churches, charities, law, order, industry, wealth, arts, and letters follow his footsteps. He is not a destroyer, but a builder. And although he will be a master where he can, he is a kind master, and his authority is a shelter and a protection. Listen to these words from Micah 2:1-3. Woe to those who devise wickedness and work evil on their beds. When the morning dawns, they perform it because it is in the power of their hand. They covet fields and seize them, and houses and take them away. They oppress a man and his house, a man and his inheritance. Therefore, thus says the Most High, Behold, against this family I am devising disaster, from which you cannot remove your necks, and you shall not walk haughtily, for it will be a time of disaster. You will never be able to understand Black history until you truly understand the mind of the oppressor. He has given you a history that is not your own, and used it as a weapon against you. It's time to wake up to the truth about who you are, Israel. Wake up to the dangers of the Black history they taught us. Your oppressor will kill, steal, and destroy to maintain his position of power. But let's not forget that it's all an illusion. The history they created for themselves and for us is a lie, and the Most High is devising disaster against them. Be sure to share this truth with a friend. Join me next time.